Welcome to the Raiders Training Camp Podcast, presented by SiriusXM.
I'm going to go ahead and start off. Gardner Minshew is going to be the starting quarterback the 2024 season. Myself, Telesco, and Luke Getzey discussed it this morning. A lot of things went into it. It wasn't based off of last night. There's a lot of factors. So we feel like Gardner gives us the best opportunity to get off to a fast start, and that's what we're going with. We support him. Our team's behind it. Our staff's behind it. Our organization's behind it.
And there you go. You heard it from head coach Antonio Pierce officially announcing your starting quarterback for the 2024 season, Gardner Minshew, a.k.a. the Guard Dog. Special edition, Eddie Paskal, by the way, special edition of the Raiders Training Camp Podcast presented by SiriusXM, hitting your pod feeds right now. And look, stating the obvious, this is the news that we have been waiting for, since April-ish. To get some clarity on. And as you heard from head coach Antonio Pierce, Gardner Minshew named QB1, beats out Aiden O'Connell for the right to be the starting quarterback for the Silver and Black. So a lot to kind of dive into here, a lot to kind of break out and dissect in terms of what AP said, what he didn't say, what this means going forward for your 2024 Raiders. So I think we just begin here. Right? Why? Why becomes the first obvious answer, or excuse me, the first obvious question. And AP says, one of the first things that he noted was, when asked just that, the experience that Gardner Minshew has. The fact that he has done this at a high level in the NFL. The fact that he has nearly over 40 career appearances in the NFL. The fact that he has he's started certainly a lot more than Aiden has. I mean, look, we can all, and I'm sure I'll give you the right numbers there. Gardner with almost 50 appearances, 49 appearances, and 37 starts since he entered the NFL. And look, that's no shot at Aiden, that Aiden doesn't have that experience. That's just the world of reality, right? That's the world of Aiden O'Connell being a second-year guy, a guy thrown into the fire a year ago, and a guy who did, considering the circumstances around him, an awesome job. An incredible job. AP gets the interim tag on November 1st, and his first order of business was implementing Aiden O'Connell as the starting quarterback for the rest of the year. So I view this less as a what Aiden didn't do type situation, and more of a, hey, this is what Gardner did do, and this is what Gardner can bring us ultimately over the first start of 2024. As we look at their preseason lines here, Gardner finishes, and we're talking about the two games combined here, 16 of 33, 212 yards and a touchdown. Aiden, on the other side of things, 21 of 29, 172 yards, one touchdown, and one interception. An interception at the end of the game on Saturday night against the Dallas Cowboys that I think if you're a fan, and certainly if you're Aiden O'Connell, you have to wonder how much did that pick six kind of play into the calculus for Antonio Pierce and Tom Telesco and Luke Getzey. And look, AP said from the jump, right? He said that this was not a decision that was made based off of just one game. But you have to think, right? And again, I'm not here to say what did or what didn't happen, but you look at the way that Aiden was playing on Saturday night. You look at the efficiency, but then it ends, and it ends sourly. And we heard from day one, right? We going all the way back to the start of the offseason program. What did Antonio Pierce want out of his quarterback? What was he looking for from his starting quarterback? And he was consistent. One of the first things he said since April was protect the football. Protect the football. Because when you have a defense as good as we think the Raiders' defense is going to be in 2024, and you have the type of explosive offensive playmakers that the Raiders have on their roster, looking at Brock Bowers, Devontae Adams, this Zamir White handling things in the backfield, and an offensive line that we think is going to be pretty darn good. At some point, your role in this offense is to play your role in this offense. You don't have to be that guy that's going to go out there and put up 400 yards and 5 touchdowns a game, right? You got to take advantage of what the defense is going to give you. You have to operate within the confines of what Luke Getzey is looking for and just execute and take care of the football. Take care of the football. And again, you just have to wonder how much that pick six on the tail end of Saturday night's performance impacted the decision from the brain trust here in the silver, or with the silver and black, I should say. And the other thing that, kind of going through and listening to AP's remarks yesterday, and I've listened to him a couple times, and if you want to listen to them, I encourage you to head on over to the Raiders Press Pass pod channel. You can listen to it there. If you want to watch it, head on over to the Raiders YouTube. So wherever you are consuming your content, I hope you're consuming it with us. But after having gone back and watched and listened to it a few times, the other thing, and we heard this leading into the game on Saturday night, was AP putting the emphasis on starting fast. That's what he was looking for from not only this team in 2024, but from the quarterback position. So who is going to be the guy? Who is going to be the quarterback? Who is going to be the signal caller that allowed this team to start fast? Because let's not forget that a year ago, as the Raiders started the 2023 season, they did not start fast. Yes, they won their regular season opener in Denver in a game that we all remember, exciting down to the wire. Jimmy Garoppolo rolls out, gets the first down on his feet to essentially secure that W. But after that, the Raiders lost 3 games in a row. So you wake up a month into the season and you're 1-3, and when you're in a division with the Kansas City Chiefs, it feels like you're already playing behind the 8 ball if you start the season, kind of not at your best, right? And so for this year, when you look at the Raiders' schedule, right? You look at the Raiders' schedule, they start back-to-back road games. You go on the road to Los Angeles, you go on the road to the Baltimore Ravens, and then you come home, regular season opener, take on the Carolina Panthers. A Carolina Panthers team that I might add, I think is going to be a little bit better than folks are giving them credit for. And then another home game against the Cleveland Browns. So that's your first 4. And, coaches break it down every single year. We break it down into quarters. And now because of the 17th game, everything gets a little wonky. But you break it down to quarters. That's your first quarter. Those are some good defenses that now Gardner Minshew and the Raiders offense is going to take on. The Chargers, we remember the performance that Khalil Mack put on a year ago against the Silver and Black. The Ravens, perennially a beast of a defense. The Browns, again, perennially a beast of a defense. Myles Garrett ain't going anywhere, right? Myles Garrett's still committed to making life miserable for the opposing quarterback, being a game-wrecking type of dude. And again, the Panthers, right? I know the Panthers not really kind of at the forefront of the national conversation, but again, I think playmakers on that team. This team, I don't anticipate playing for the Lombardi Trophy in February, but I do think that they're going to be a little bit better than folks across the NFL are giving them credit for. So you look at that. You look at that first quarter, and you say, there's going to be a lot that is thrown at whoever this quarterback is. And it appears as though Antonio Pierce, and Luke Getsy and Tom Telesco, they think that Gardner Minshew is better equipped right now to navigate those waters than Aiden O'Connell. And again, AP was talking about Aiden and how he responded to this whole thing, and he goes, look, Aiden O'Connell is going to start games in the NFL at some point. He just isn't getting that opportunity right now. And we saw what Aiden did all of last year, right? Steadying the ship, but I think more importantly, getting better week after week after week after week. So for Aiden O'Connell, how do you respond to this situation, right? Again, AP says both gentlemen handled it like true professionals, which is not shocking at all because, again, we look at Gardner's body of work, a guy who has been up and down and hasn't been the guy in a really long time, ends up becoming the guy throughout the course of a season, throughout the course of of his tenure at whatever stop he's been at. But a guy who's never been anointed as the guy. Same with Aiden O'Connell, right? Going back to high school and college for Aiden, right? We've heard the story a million times. So you look at the makeup of that quarterback room now. You look at the demeanors, the mental kind of tenacity, the mental bounce back ability of both of those guys, and you're not worried about that. And so I think for now, what'll be really interesting to see is how Aiden kind of responds to this challenge, right? And make no mistake about it, right? If something happens, he's gonna be ready to go. He will be ready to go at a moment's notice. If Gardner, for whatever reason, is forced to miss any time, or he will be ready to rock. And that's the name of the game in the NFL. You just got to wait for your opportunity because you never know when it's going to come. And the other thing that, kind of going through kind of the thought process a little bit as this team now gears up for week 1 against the Los Angeles Chargers. And I was thinking about this yesterday, because AP obviously said this yesterday. But given some of the, I don't want to say questions along the offensive line, because again, I think this offensive line is going to be really, really good in 2024. But just living in the world of reality, of living in the world of the right now, as we sit here on August 19th, Colton Miller's still on the PUP list, right? So your big dog at left tackle still on the PUP list, hasn't had an opportunity to go out there and practice with his boys just yet. Jackson Powers-Johnson comes off the PUP list last week, but is still kind of easing his way into form in 2024. And AP said from the jump, like, look, the likelihood of this dude being our week 1 starter, given the situation, given the circumstances about him on the PUP list, starting training camp, very unlikely. So now all of a sudden, I don't want to say have questions on the offensive line, but it feels like you haven't entered your final form there yet. And that is not a bad thing. That is not reason to panic. Again, that's just reality as we sit here approaching the end of August. So if you have these questions, if you have some of these things that are still being worked out, being refined on the offensive line, I wonder if there is a thought process of, okay, look, Gardner's certainly more mobile than Aiden. We can call a spade there, right? Like those guys have joked about it too. Gardner has the ability to get out, to be creative, to be a little more off script than Aiden does. So I wonder now, we talk about that first quarter and starting fast. I wonder if that's some of the calculus of being like, look, we might not be ready to rock along the offensive line at our final form, at the peak of our powers in early September. Which of these quarterbacks gives us the best chance to be successful week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4? And look, that said, I don't anticipate we're going to see either of these gentlemen playing on Friday night as the Silver and Black wrap up the preseason against the San Francisco 49ers and their really good, really good defense. AP said last week, he goes, we're probably not going to see the starters. And again, I might be proven wrong, but I'd be really surprised if we saw either of these quarterbacks, either Gardner or Aiden, Friday night at Allegiant Stadium. But I do hope that we see all of you. Kickoff scheduled for 7 o'clock p.m., as I said, at Allegiant Stadium. And it's the last time we're going to be there for a minute, right? We look at the schedule, and since the Raiders start with back-to-back road games, it's going to be a while until we enjoy the friendly confines of Allegiant Stadium once again. So I encourage all of you guys, come out there, come hang out with us. The environment on Saturday was awesome. It felt so good to be back in the big house. It felt so good to hear the music, feel the energy from the fans, and I have to imagine that will be the case once again on Friday night as the Silver and Black, again, wrap up the preseason against the San Francisco 49ers. So, to recap, Gardner Minshew is QB1. Aiden O'Connell handled it like a true pro. Both these guys now are going to play their roles. And I think there's something very beautiful about the clarity in that, about, I don't want to say the finality, but the fact that those roles now are defined as Gardner is QB1, Aiden is QB2. Aiden, of course, will prepare as though he's the starter, prepare as though he's going to get thrown in at a moment's notice. But again, we'll also support Gardner as the starter, just as he did for the first part of his rookie year in 2023. So on that note, friendly reminder, we are back at Allegiant Stadium not only on Friday night, but tomorrow night for open practice. We hope to see you guys there. So for Eddie Paskal, we appreciate you hanging out with us on this emergency episode of the Raiders Training Camp Podcast presented by SiriusXM.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Raiders Training Camp Podcast presented by SiriusXM. To stay up to date on all the latest with the Silver and Black, download our mobile app and subscribe to the Raiders Podcast Network.